So the other day, Drew was telling me about a customer service experience he had with a cell phone provider. He lives in a rural area, and they just have limited plans and limited data. So he starts calling around to get a better service.
You can't call the store. So you call the store phone number, and it takes you to the international call service center, which is awful because I have a very specific question about my very specific region. Can't do it. So that's awful. Then the other one does have a local store number, and they never pick up. I've tried 6 times. They don't pick up. Flat out do not pick up the phone. You have to go in and talk to them.
So Drew finally gets in front of somebody who can sell him an unlimited data plan.
We've got unlimited data. How much unlimited data would you like?
Wait, no. There's the word unlimited. Unlimited means there is no limit.
After some back and forth, she finally understands what Drew's asking. He just wants an unlimited plan. Customer service is all about listening to the customer, right? Yet, why do we hear so many stories where, as a customer, we just don't feel listened to?
In this episode of I'm Listening, we're going to explore why we often feel unsatisfied walking away from a customer service experience and what we can do to get what we want.
From conversations to the natural world to complete silence, so many of us focus on what's next rather than what is happening now. I'm Listening is a podcast that dissects the importance of listening.
I'm Drew Richmond.
And I'm Brant Christofferson.
And this is I'm Listening, a podcast simply about the skill of listening.
So, Drew, did you end up getting your unlimited plan?
No, I didn't at all. And I ended up walking away. But it was the only tactic I had at that point. Bottom line is they wanted me to spend money to get the discount, which is ultimately what I was looking for was, well, what is the discount that you can offer me? Well, you have to sign up for it, and then we'll tell you the discount. And I said no.
So we're going to dive into that today, is the why do we feel so unsatisfied so often when it comes to those customer service experiences, and what can we do about it?
I think we need to talk about the some of those frustrations. We need to talk about also the successes, the things that go really, really well, because those do exist.
They do.
Although we don't talk about those, right? We always want to share the bad story. We got to share the good story too.
So there's 2 sides to this, right? Is how do you get the customer service rep to listen to you, but also how do you open yourself up to make sure you're listening to them?
And Brant, my friend, that to me is the key. Well, who do you have control over, right? Who can you be most prepared for? Probably not the random person picking up the phone on the other line, but you. So I think I'm excited to figure out those skill sets and to have the dialogue about what can you do to open yourself up to listen to that individual, but you have to be prepared.
To help us with this conversation, we brought in someone with experience in customer service and a friend of mine.
My name is Angie Wilson. I have worked in customer service since I was very young. Currently, I am actually called a customer success manager with a small company out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and in love with my job. What I do is connect the dots for clients to get them an intranet for their internal communication system. So I help them set up and build their intranet.
We started talking about customer service, and we're talking primarily about the customer service experiences that we've had as customers. And the ones that stick out in our heads the most are the ones that go unfulfilled, where we leave the customer service experience going, what the hell just happened? Yes. What was that all about? I'm at an end. What do I do about this? And that's what kind of kicked us into this.
Yeah. And there's so many perspectives too, because depending on the situation and things like that of what you're going into, are you upset because you aren't getting your text messages, or are you upset because you haven't gotten your paycheck? What is the purpose of the call? So that can also incorporate a whole nother level of anxiety and frustration and anger depending on what it is that you're dealing with, right? You know, if people aren't getting their text messages, that can be very frustrating. But if somebody's not getting their paycheck, that can be, can I feed my kids or not? Can I feed myself or not? Can I pay my bills? What situations specifically, or are there specific situations that the two of you would like to talk about?
Oh, Drew's got one.
Yeah. So, I've got one. So, working with my local cell phone provider, and this all has to do with this thing called unlimited data.
Yes.
And what's fascinating about unlimited data is that there is other packages that you can purchase. So,
wow,
that leaves it to an unresolved situation where here I am with my minute unlimited data package that when the unlimited data runs out, my phone turns into a paperweight.
If you're calling to become a new customer, say new or press 1.
So, fun fact, I was a manager at a cell phone store for about 5 years in previous life.
No way.
Swear.
Brent, you did not tell me this. You did not, you hid this information.
I knew
this is golden.
information, and I wanted to hold on to it.
You withheld it?
I did.
You withheld information. You dog.
Oh, I knew you'd like that.
You know, as a manager in that situation or as a customer service representative in that situation, there are limitations in what they are trained on. People being able to say, you know, I'm not educated enough on that. Let me work with someone who is, so that I can get you a reasonable response or an actual response instead of I'm not sure. And there is limitations from a customer service standpoint on what they can provide. So
you listed kind of two things. There's on the customer service end of things, the people who are answering the phone or trying to help you, there may be limitations on what they know. And there's also limitations in what they can offer.
Right.
So those are some limitations they're setting there. And one thing a good customer service person would say, I don't know the answer to that. Let me find a way to help answer that.
You know, that's that, like, that this is what I'm looking for. Can you help me do this thing or not?
Yeah.
And you know, we're a little bit long-winded with it, but it was that situation, which is why I was contacting these other cell phone providers, because I saw on their advertising that it was X amount and it was less than what I was paying for more unlimited data. And they couldn't give me that unless I started paying more for more unlimited data, which would have been the discount thing. So I really that resonated with me of I don't want you to just listen to me right now. I'm actually looking for resolve. I'm looking for this thing. I want more for less. Let's go down this path together.
And how do we get there?
Is there a fallback that is trained, or that is these major corporations, including cell phone companies, are investing millions and millions of dollars in trying to outdo the other company with customer service because it is a huge component of their business. So instead of just having this one answer or this, are they empowered to go a totally different route and say, let me get back to you, let me follow up, do those things? Or is that just not part of the training and part of their role in their customer service job?
Yeah. I don't believe that, generally speaking, the frontline workers are trained in those sort of delicate care pieces. They're trained in sales. Our goal is to sell more, right? So if I'm an existing customer with XYZ, why can't I get the buy one, get one free on the new iPhones or the new Samsungs or whatever? Well, because it's buy one, you have to add a line to get that buy one, get one. I have all the lines I want. Why do I have to buy a new line? It's just the way it is. My outlook is I want to have at least a real reason. That's just the way it is. Isn't a real reason for me. So I wanted to do some digging, and the real reason that I seem to my conclusion, the real reason is when you add a line, you are adding revenue, and then that negates what we're losing, right? Financially. So we are losing $1,000 to give you this phone. That added revenue is only $10 a month for that phone. That's going to reimburse that deficit. Being able to explain that in a way took a long time, and it took me digging into it. It is not just trained. It's, now we're not going to do something for free. That's the response I would get. We're not going to do something for free. Now we'll give discounts, but the revenue has to be showing that it's coming in order for us to give a discount. That's sort of where the perspective is from my experience. Those frontline workers and frontline managers, they're trained to sell more. If we're going to give a discount for something, we need to show why. We need to be able to have some kind of a auditing trail that says, Drew spent $50, is now going to be spending $50 more a month in revenue income. We can go ahead and give Drew a discount of $30 so it balances a little bit. So he's only paying $20 more, but we're getting that $20 more and he's getting this much more data.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a supply versus demand on my experience.
Yeah. I was just looking at some stats here too of just customer service, and like more than half customers will switch to a competitor after only one bad experience. And I think that's that
They're
bad
usually
experience
bad.
part that I kind of want to unpack a little bit. Drew kind of mentioned before too, like, I'm not calling customer service because I'm happy, right?
Never.
I'm not calling because I'm like, gosh, I hope you guys are having a good day. It's because I've tried every single other thing in the book, and now I'm to the point where I'm super frustrated. I'm calling this phone number. I'm listening to all these prompts. I'm on hold. I'm waiting for someone. And now finally someone answers the phone. And I'm not my best self, right? So you've got this guy on the other end. I'm already having a bad experience. Has nothing to do with you, but I'm already set up as a bad experience. If we know that half customers are going to switch to a competitor after one bad experience, what are you doing on the other end of the phone knowing that I'm already coming into this super hot?
Yeah. So I think that when you get someone who is, angry on the phone, the first thing is you need to be able to say, this isn't about me. This is not about my job. This is not about my performance. It's a matter of figuring out where that line is from taking it personally to being able to actually just listen to this person's frustration but how can I make them feel like they've been heard? Because it's nothing to me, but it's obviously something to them. And that's one of the things that I try to instill in my staff is, you might think it's funny that they miss out on $15 in their paycheck. $15 is what we lived on as kids. My mom would buy groceries for a week on $10, so she had $5 for gas. And that's not an exaggeration. That's the difference between feeding your kids and not. So $15 to you may not be anything, but to this person, it's everything. Empathy is not something that's easily learned. You have to be able to put yourself in that person's shoes. And if you haven't been there in your life, that can be extremely difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can already hear your expertise coming through because Brant was so hot going into that question. He was like, and at the end, I'm like, empathy and understanding and all those things brings me to another point. You also mentioned, listening, actively listening to the customer when you pick up the phone, not knowing what's coming in. But if that customer's hot and angry, being able to listen to them. One of the things we talked about, what are some of the things that we can do as the person calling customer service to calm ourselves down, take that deep breath. If we want to get what we want, maybe there's some other things that we can do as the caller. And I want your feedback and your opinion on this.
Oh, yeah.
Be able to take notes and be able to write down exactly what they're talking about so that you can refer back to it. But also, even though you might be angry and you might be hot, starting with that calm hello and really doing your homework and being ready to be solution driven. What are you looking for?
Yeah.
As the person calling, what are you actually looking for right now? And if it is, in fact, more data for less money, then that's fine. But be clear with that and don't have it be some sort of convoluted message. The other last thing that we talked about, that this is just something I try to do as often as possible with that notepad, write down the person's name that you're talking to.
Always. Yeah. Always. And if they will give you
Brant,
your
did you hear
last
that?
name,
Hey.
If they give you their last name or their employee number, it does lend to the credibility. It does lend to being able to go back and say, hey, I spoke with Brant Christofferson on January 4th, and this was a recap of our conversation. They can pull up the notes from that account and see the recap of the conversation and go, oh, man, okay. But getting their name is that was my first thing that I thought of. So getting their name is really important. Making note of the date, sometimes the time too is helpful, but not necessary. That being said, having that initial conversation to set the stage. Where have you been on this journey to get a solution or resolution? Where did this start? How long have you been dealing with it? Retelling that story puts a human face on it. It puts your voice, if not your face, connected to that. It helps drive empathy from a customer service person to try to do more for you. When they can hear and feel your frustration, and it's not about them, it's about the situation. So differentiating that absolutely is helpful. Hey, I've had a really hard time getting this done. So if I sound frustrated, it's because I am, and it's not because I'm talking to you. Those small things like that can really change the way a customer service representative will help you. And full transparency, like if you're a jerk on the phone, I don't know how crass I can be on here, but if you're a jerk on the phone, you're probably not going to get great service. You're probably going to get the bare minimum or less than.
You mentioned if you're not reaching this resolve, and we've talked a little bit about, what if this is not working? What are some of those tactics? What are some of those skills? You've opened yourself up to listening as the person calling. You're hoping that the customer service representative is also doing their best to listen to you, to hear your concerns, and to work with you. Maybe a little bit of empathy sprinkled in there as well. If this is not working, we discussed that repeating to them what you're hearing as the person calling. So what I hear is that, X, Y, and Z, and this is not possible, just to confirm that you guys are on the same page. And then at that point, repeat, well, this is what I'm looking for. Am I clear? So this is, make sure that you are listening to each other, that those lines of communications are open, but then also be willing to walk away. Anything else in terms of tricks of the trade or little things that we can do to help get what we want out of customer service and to make sure that those paths of listening and communication are open? Anything else that's out there in your mind, Angie?
Ideally, you're going to get a customer service person who's going to do everything that they can, regardless of how you call in. There are those tips that you talked about that allow for a better conversation starting out. There's tips that you talked about throughout the conversation, taking notes, reiterating, and aligning with what is understood on both sides. That all lines up, right? At the end of the day, oftentimes the customer service hands are tied. So they can't give you what you're wanting. They can escalate it. They can send it to the other department, and still they can't do anything themselves to get to that resolution that you're looking for. So the customer is not always right.
What?
Whoa. Cut that. Cut that, Brant. Brant, make sure that does not make it on the podcast.
Should stay in the podcast.
Oh.
Your call may be monitored or recorded to train our employees and systems and to personalize your experience.
At what point is it beneficial for me as a customer to say, can I talk to your manager or can I talk to someone else? Does that get me anywhere? Because that always feels like a jerk move, but does it work?
One way to get to a manager without actually asking for a manager would be to say, talking to this customer service person, do you think that your manager would have any other insights or thoughts? Maybe they've been doing it for longer. Like just having kind of an encouraging conversation with them to see, are there other solutions that your manager may have? Rather than saying, I want to speak to your manager, it's, how do you feel about getting your manager involved? And if they get shitty with you or angry with you, you can, sorry, have to cut that one. If they get angry with you.
No, you
Oh,
don't.
great.
Not on this podcast.
We can swear.
Let her fly.
Yeah.
Oh, if I'd have known that earlier. It is really difficult to narrow down the best way to do that without having some sort of a understanding of who that customer service representative is and the situation.
Brant, what other questions? You got other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. The customer service rep who is distracted, it sounds like they're doing laundry in the background. Are they actually doing laundry in the background? They sound like they're not listening to me.
Or are they painting the shed? They're painting the shed, aren't they?
What are they doing? Can you do that? Why would you do that?
Why would you do that is a great question. And if they reported to me, I would be finding that out. In the old days, when call center people were always at the call center, we didn't experience that as often. We did experience that distraction, right? They're talking or they're typing or they're doing other stuff. If you feel like they're doing the laundry, they're probably doing the dang laundry. And you can say, I would encourage you to say, hey, it sounds like you're kind of busy right now. Would there be someone else that would be better to talk to?
They are not sitting at the cubicle anymore, are they? They are sitting
They're
at
home.
home,
Home, aren't they? Yeah.
We're home.
I swear, my customer service conversation, the guy was going for a jog. I believe he was currently jogging. There was so much wrestling going on and so much. It was crazy.
That's insane.
I didn't know what to do, Angie. I didn't know how to respond and say, excuse me, are you jogging right now? Are you running? Are you grocery shopping while we're doing this on the it was crazy.
Like, how
I didn't know what to do. I froze. I just let that part go, understanding that, yeah, they're probably at home. This is their job. It's 5:30 at night, but they're open till 8, all those things. But they're not sitting behind desks anymore, are they?
Oftentimes, call center people are now work from home people, and it creates this level of distraction that is easily happens to me. If you are on a call with someone in customer service and you can tell, you just have this feeling, that they're not paying attention to you, I would encourage you to say, hey, it sounds like you're really busy right now. I'm getting a lot of feedback. It sounds like there's other stuff going on in the background. Is there a better person that I could talk to that maybe has more capacity for this conversation?
Nice.
Yeah, I would strongly encourage, because there are going to be two responses, probably more than two responses, but one is you're going to stop hearing all that rustling and you're going to feel like they're paying more attention. Or two, they're going to say, I'm so sorry. I do need to transfer you to another person who would give you better attention, ideally. Addressing it politely, directly, I think those two are important in that order. Like, I'm sitting here like, we could switch those. No, you really do want to be polite, because as the person calling in, again, the customer isn't always right, but the customer always needs to be respected. Kind of putting forth that respect first as well, and then direct. They will more than likely either offer you a call back. In my experience, they'll offer you a call back, or they'll send you to somebody who can hear you.
Cool.
This has been fantastic. This is what I take away from this, as Angie, as I was listening to you, and shockingly, it's not surprising, right? We go into these customer service pieces and we don't know who this person is. We don't have a relationship with them. We might talk to them for 5 minutes and never talk to them or see them ever again. So we can go in hot, we can go in angry, we can go in disrespectful. We're probably not going to get what we want. If we go in with a little bit of empathy, if we go in clear with what we're looking for, and if we go in understanding that they may or may not be able to help us, that they just don't have freedoms to unlock whatever we want just to make us happy. Because as you said multiple times, and it pains me to say it, but the customer is not always right, but they do need to be respected, right? And that is because there's a human piece to this. And probably what's changed over the last few years is that there might not be sitting in a room full of cubicles with a bunch of headsets and a bunch of telephones. They're likely sitting at home. And there is a human aspect to that we need to be aware of. And if it sounds like they're painting the shed, or it sounds like they're doing laundry, or if we did happen to catch them in the middle of their jog, man, it's going to be hard, but we got to take that with a little bit of grain of salt and go, maybe this isn't the best time, or is there somebody else that I can talk to about this right now? It sounds like you're busy.
Love it. Yeah, this has been a great conversation, and I want to also say thank you, Angie.
I enjoy it. I absolutely enjoyed it.
Angie, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, Drew, a couple takeaways for me. One is that it's another person that we're talking with on the other end of the phone, and they are wanting to work with me. That's what they're there for. So I want to get to know them, at least their name, interact with them, make a connection, know that when I show respect, I can get respect. I want to come into the call knowing what it is that I'm looking for, but also knowing that there are limits on what can be done, and I need to be open to those options. And lastly, if I don't think I'm being heard, I can state that. I could ask and rephrase what they're saying, or I could ask to have someone else join the conversation if that might help out, which is better than saying, I want to talk to your manager. Okay, Drew, what do we got coming up next?
We're excited to talk to a poet. That's right. We're switching way over on the other side of the spectrum from customer service frustrations to the beautiful serenity of poetry. We're excited to talk to you guys about
if customer service was only in poetry,
If
I would do it.
man,
Haiku customer
that'll
service.
be the episode after, is where we do poetry readings to customer service.
After they've banned us from podcasting equipment altogether.
In our next podcast, we'll call customer service and read them poetry.
Read them poetry. We totally should. All right. Special thanks to our guest today, Angie Wilson.
If you're looking for any more information, you can find it in the description of this podcast. Any of the sources that we used, along with any more of the information about customer service.
This podcast was created and produced by Drew Richmond and Brian Christofferson, editing by me, and music by Drew.
Me!
That's you. Have a good one, Drew.
Bye, Brant. Till next time.
See you next time.
Thank you.